Hello to all of you, coming at you from the Hypnotic World Epicenter. This is the Brain Software Podcast, episode 258, emanating from Toronto, Canada. And I'm Fritz Thompson. Today, hypnosis trainer Mike Mandel, and I are going to discuss hypnosis and other cool life-changing stuff. So keep watching or listening.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
To date, we have received a deluge of nearly 3 people pleading with us to stop saying Loochie, or else. But here's what I think about it all. Can you really stop us? Can you stop us at all? Let me just say, vade mecum volventibus anus.
Loochie!
But in any case, whatever happened to that old brown paper and vinegar solution to everything we used to know and love? These are days of victory. So let's welcome to the studio that zany hypnotist with a mechanical engineering degree, a man who is an actual bastion, but still a nice guy, the happy father of 2 girls and a doggy, Chris Dracula Thompson.
Oh, amazing. It's nice to have me being the person introduced.
Why not?
Chris Dracula Thompson reminds me of years ago. Do you remember years ago, because we've been doing this podcast since 2012, when you used to make the Dexter references. And then we had Eric from Czech Republic come to our Toronto class.
Yes.
And he loved the Dexter references so much. And now I think I just saw that there's another season coming.
A new season.
Yeah, so there we go.
That's
we might be able to bring back the
fantastic.
Dexter references. So we've already got Dracula as the replacement, though. So
Yeah, I'm liking the Dracula
let's
stuff.
move on to our think tank words. But before we do that, let's just give a little bit of a teaser. What's coming up in this episode? Why should people listen to
we're
us?
going to talk all about cool stuff about hypnosis and interesting
That sounds
things
very
and
vague.
all of that stuff. Yeah.
Next time we'll talk about marketing and how to make a much more inspiring introduction to a podcast.
That's a good
So stick
idea.
around because we are going to talk about some
Useful stuff.
We'll just I can't even remember what's in the
Neither can I.
honest. So we'll figure it out.
We
We're
work
gonna
too hard.
We're going to get to the think tank words, but before we do, let's just say this should go live Friday, July 12th, according to our notes, which means HypnoThoughts Live is coming up in just a few days in Las Vegas. So if you're attending HypnoThoughts Live, make sure you look on that agenda because you're going to see a presentation by me done with Timothy September. We're going to do some cool business stuff. You're going to see a presentation from Mike Mandel, all about hypnotically dynamic presentations. And I'm pretty sure Timothy's also doing a solo presentation on his method of having hypnotic conversations. You're going to want to be there in the room at all 3 of those if you're coming to HypnoThoughts
Come
Live.
out and see us.
And
Hang
if
out
you're
with
not
us.
coming to HypnoThoughts Live, which
You should be.
is probably the majority of people listening, you should be. It's freaking awesome. Okay.
We're going to HypnoThoughts Live, and I just want you to know, can you really stop us? Can you stop us at all?
All right.
So think tank words, Chris, generated from the actual Sava Bukacek think tank. And I want to just say think tank words to Dracula. Here's how you do it.
Okay.
Think tank to isolation tank to casket to Dracula. Okay.
That works.
The first one is audibility,
audibility. Okay.
then followed by palladium
palladium.
and procrastinate.
Okay. So audibility. How
Speak
audible
up, Scaria.
how audible is something? That's a really good point. What is loudest in your life? The squeaky wheel gets the grease, they say, right? Well, that's audible.
Sounds rather frightening.
What is in your life? What is that squeaky wheel that needs attention that maybe you haven't been directing?
I can think of about 400 things right off the bat. Yeah.
So that's what I think about audibility. What do you get?
Well, the whole thing of needing to be heard. And we need to speak clearly and cogently so people hear us, and we have to continue until they hear us.
I like that.
And I'm referring to something out of my own life, as you know. Yes.
You're going in the opposite direction as mine, too, because audible, I was thinking about things that you're hearing. You're thinking about making sure you're heard. What you need. And both of those are very, very valid.
Well, what about palladium?
Palladium, the element?
Yes, it is an element.
There's also the Palladium was the original name for what I can't even remember.
It was a
what
theater
it's called now. No, in Ottawa when I lived there back when I worked for Nortel and stuff. The Palladium, which then became, I think, the Corel Center. They have become Scotiabank Center and then a Canadian Tire Center. I don't know. It keeps getting sold to different brands, but it's like I still call it the Palladium in my head because it's a cooler name.
Yeah, there's a London Palladium too.
Big place where sporting events and concerts would happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think of Palladium as this epic place to go where awesome, fun stuff is happening.
Interesting. I just think of it as the chemical element. I know there is the London Palladium. Coming back from Dominican Republic years ago, my friend Davey Hine, a Scottish guy, funny as hell, had a bit to drink on the plane, was crawling down the aisle. And then we got there, we're getting our luggage. He jumped on the luggage rotating carousel. He said, look, it's like a dance at the London Palladium, riding it round, completely oblivious to security. But to me, Palladium, chemical element, what's that, like 40 something, 44 or something?
I have no idea.
I know it's similar to platinum. It can be used in jewelry as well. But it's too soft, I think.
There you go.
So you don't want to be too soft if you're at the London Palladium, especially if you're riding the carousel with Davey Hine.
And we've been procrastinating on this third
we
word,
have.
Procrastinate. Oh, I think we all know what that means.
We should get to it now.
Yeah, procrastinate. I mean, that's, I really don't feel like unpacking that because the definition is so freaking obvious. I'm just putting off really talking about it here. What do you want to say about procrastinate?
You know what? I've been procrastinating making a decision. Serious? I the hand. I'm going to make it right now.
Okay.
Damn it. I'm coming to lunch with you.
There we go.
There we go.
Right.
It's just been playing in the back of my mind. We're not going to have, who unhappy. So here we go. Now, what about promotions and the usual banter?
Well, that's it. We talked about HypnoThoughts Live, so we'll just leave it at that. Oh, we will say this. We're now just, let's see, it's July. So August, September, October, November, 4 months away from the architecture of hypnosis.
I thought you said Christmas.
Which is now more than halfway sold out.
I know.
So hopefully it's not sold out by the time we go live with this, or I'm going to feel like a real meanie. Which reminds me when my kids were young and my youngest daughter used to say, "You're a meanie."
Ah, it's so sad.
She wasn't getting her way or whatever. Daddy's a meanie.
You sound like a juvenile Homer Simpson when you do that.
Exactly. So I don't want to be a meanie in case we are sold out. I don't think we will. It would be pretty uncommon for our class to be totally sold out by July, 4 months in advance, but it will sell out. The spots are going. We keep the class. We talked about extending the size of the class. We don't want to do it. We love having sort of this 45-ish number of students in the room. We can
7
build
masters.
Relationships with everybody. We can chat with everybody. It's just much more enjoyable for us. So
for sure.
Sorry if we do sell out and you were hoping we'd expand the class size to 60, 70, 80 people.
No,
it's not going to happen.
We want to build the bridges. In fact, the last training, AOH, the one we just did, was the best one ever. We're at our new location. He said 45 people. We got people from new places who'd never been. We had our usual, Norway and all over the US and Canada, but we also had Hawaii. Well, we had Ireland coming back as resource, Lawrence. We had Catherine come back from the Isle of Man as a resource at her own expense. Slovakia, Hungary, and Hong Kong. Edwin, our first student from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Ni hao. Fantastic.
So really cool. All right. So
he took the bell and the Hypnotic Storm back to the Far East with him.
He did. And I've just about to sign the contract for next May.
Man. We also, I just have to say, in the class, we had a children's psychiatrist, a psychologist, and a pediatrician as well. So that's our 7th psychiatrist we've trained. And he actually, Dirk wants me on his podcast, which is kind of cool. That's right. That's great. Naturally, I said no.
Dirk. That's great.
Naturally, I said no.
All right.
Let's
talk about a few things that happened then.
Let's talk about the Bernheim amnesia.
We brought up this idea, I think maybe 2 podcasts ago, that you, as you're sharpening the blade, preparing for the architecture of hypnosis, you were reading some Bernheim material. Yeah,
suggestive therapeutics.
And just quick reminder, who is Bernheim for those listening who don't know?
Hippolyte Bernheim at Nancy, France, was a neurologist, obviously a medical doctor. He and Libo, who was a country physician, started the Nancy School of Hypnosis, and they made tremendous strides in dealing with all kinds of things using direct suggestion and hypnosis in the late 1880s. But because they were doctors, they documented everything superbly. And we got an idea from Bernheim. He wrote in Suggestive Therapeutics that he would have a patient count themselves out of trance. So I said this in the podcast, like you said.
Yeah, so instead of saying, when I count from 1 to 10, you will come back to a fully waking state, you'll feel amazing, et cetera, he would say, you will count. And when you get to 6, you will awaken, and you'll continue counting up to 10.
And he said, then when you ask the person, why are you counting? They have amnesia and don't know. So I had to see this. I told Chris we had to check this out. So we had an unprepared student, actually one of the resource people, came up to the front for a demo.
Yeah, it was Joanna.
Yeah, Joanna, lovely woman. Her sister Julie's really nice too. No idea. Yeah. So tranced her out, which I'm really good at. Then when she was zoned through the floor, did some stuff, some adjusting of her brain, asked her to come out, count herself out. When she got to 6, she'd be wide awake, but would keep counting up to 10.
So she opened her eyes.
It was fantastic. She was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Here, I'll be you now.
Okay.
Why are you counting?
I have no idea.
I don't know. Yeah,
It's fantastic. It worked. Bert, I was right.
What the book says tends to happen. So
amazing.
Textbook, literally, answer.
Textbook answer.
Yeah.
Now remember too.
Play with that if you're a hypnotist.
It's fantastic. And Gabor from Hungary, great guy, great hair.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a cat allergy, as you recall, which to me, being an allurophile, a cat lover, the thought of a cat allergy is about the worst thing anyone could possibly have. And so even talking about them, he was able to start his nose getting like weird, his sinuses, his eyes getting a bit watery. Yeah. And I ran the allergy treatment on him, the immune system retrained, and he posted that evening he saw a cat on the way home, he said.
Outside.
And he's petting it.
Petting the cat and laughing.
Yeah, because he couldn't believe it.
He couldn't get any
And the cat loved it. It was flopping all over the place, really as they do.
So it's nice to see it. Anyway, that'll be on YouTube before this goes live.
Brilliant.
So what we'll do is in the show notes, we'll make sure that there's a link to that video.
Right. And you know that immune system retrain, it's not ours, it's an NLP thing, but we run it from inside. Apparently, right? Yeah, we run it from inside a hypnotic state to make it stronger. Not that it needs it. And Will Wood, our friend, that's one of his specialties. But I have never had that fail. Do you know that? Yeah. I've done a lot of immune system retrains and allergies just disappear immediately. I've never, ever had it fail.
A lot of them seem to. I can't say I've ever had it fail either. Does that mean that you get a 100% success rate with it every single time?
So far.
I would. What I mean by success is, let's say an allergy is at, let's call it 100 to baseline it, right? Whatever results that you were getting from your trigger, you would have an allergic response. Let's call that 100.
Okay.
Right. Does it necessarily go down to 0? Not necessarily. But if you get a reduction of any kind that lasts, I'd call that a win.
Yeah, I see it almost as digital.
Mm-hmm.
You just flip the switch and it stops bothering them.
Yeah, that's what seems to happen for the most part, right? We're not going to go test that on Axis or something.
We tell people not to. Go to your allergist, have them do a test on you. Now, the other thing is the 7 masters in the class. We had Jennifer and Kevin and great people. They had great results. Some had some quite emotional processing of stuff. They get treatment from each other, and I go and deal with them and help them. I look at all their handwriting and counsel them and what their strengths and weaknesses are. It kind of freaks them out. They did Chevreul's pendulum. They used the tri-pendulum. They were all able to produce different pendulum swings on this thing purely from the unconscious. We got that from James Hazelrig. Thank you, James. You're an amazing Texan. Is there any other kind of Texan? And also they did ego state self-work, working with the cards, and had breakthrough stuff, man. And I love working with the 7 masters. And because of you stepping up and teaching certain segments like Nuvi and revivification, I was able to spend quality time with the masters as well. Yeah,
but Mike still's teaching the vast majority of the class. So when you come out to Toronto, you're getting that full Mike Mandel experience, which is awesome. It almost sounds like we're slipping into pitching the class.
No, we don't want to be, because it'll turn out anyway.
An interesting conversation about what we learned about hypnosis or what we experienced.
Right. Now, by Friday, this is that thing. Everybody in the class, they're all excellent subjects.
Yeah,
they were able to just go into trance right away.
Spend 5 days with us in a classroom practicing hypnosis
all the time,
being the hypnotist and being the subject, and you'll discover both of those are hypnotic experiences. You're different kinds of trances. But by the end of 5 days, when we do something like teach you self-hypnosis, if we had said on Monday, you just go into trance and then you do these things.
They'd look as blank expressions.
What do you mean? You just go, by Friday they go, oh yeah, of course that makes sense, because you've been doing it all week. It's really, really easy.
Now, also, we ran the Esdale State as usual on the last day. And I think more than half the students succeeded in going to the Esdale State.
Yeah, the Esdale State, we're not going to get into a big explanation.
No, we're not.
But one of the first tests that we run is unsuggested insensitivity to pressure, pain, things like that.
Right.
And so you'll have somebody who you've brought them through the element induction, which tends to get you to a somnambulistic trance, and then the 3 Esdale deepeners, the staircases or the escalators or whatever it is. And then we simply fire like a pressure point attack on the 8, right?
The radial nerve, yeah.
And people don't even flinch. And then when they come out of trance and they say, well, what did you do?
It didn't bother me at all. I do it again and they go,
It's hilarious. So it's a great convincer for people to experience.
And just so it doesn't seem like we're doing a pitch, I just want to say this, though. If you miss November, the next training is almost a year away.
Yeah, that's true. It'll be
consider
2025.
Consider November if you're interested. Yeah. Now, let's talk about the heal or stay asleep double bind.
Okay, this is a great double bind, and we're making, I think, a separate video on this. But the idea being, and it's funny, like these are little distinctions that I've been exposed to for 2 decades plus.
Right.
Because I learned it from you in the first place. But
Okay.
I don't think a lot of other people teach this. Where did you get this healer stay asleep double bind?
I think it might be Marlene Hunter.
Okay.
It's a good, Vancouver medical doctor. It's a good one. And you'll only awaken when you've done all the internal work and come out of this feeling amazing. You put the double bind that you have to stay asleep. Well, we know they're not asleep, so don't write because we don't read it. Loochie.
Zeitgeist stuff.
But yeah. It's, they can't come out of trance until they've done the work, which I find very useful.
Right. So let's frame this that you've done an interview. You've figured out what it is that the client wants, what they want to have happen in their life. You've written down the nominalizations and the things, the metaphors that represent their problem to seed some ideas on how you're going to intervene, whether it be guided imagery, direct suggestion, hypnosis, some NLP intervention, or whatever you're going to do. And now you do the work. And then right before you do the awakening, you're going to use this kind of double bind here and say something like,
right.
And as your brain processes all these changes, et cetera, hypnotic language, you will only come back to now and be fully awake once those processes are installed and up and running fully in your brain.
Right.
Something like that.
And Dabney Ewan gave that great phrase, let it be impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So I put that into one of these as well. Let it be impossible to awaken until the entire problem is gone forever.
Yeah, and this is a great thing because obviously tied in with the idea of maybe we can explain what a tacit contract is, because I think that's a nice front bolt on.
Okay.
A tacit contract going into the change work, do the change work, and then this double bind for the awakening.
That's powerful. Very good. Very strong.
Powerful. So the idea, let's explain that. What is a tacit contract?
Well, tacit means unspoken. And it's just you offer them a contract, not a contract, but the idea is when they accept what you said, nothing will stop them going into trance. So it can be as simple as you say something like, and when you're ready to go into a deep trance and fix this completely, you can take a deep breath and close your eyes. So when they do that, they've accepted that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've accepted it. Now nothing will stop
I think people get mixed up sometimes when they're thinking about, well, tacit, you said tacit is unspoken, yet you're speaking. Yeah, you're speaking.
Right.
They're not responding with voice. They're responding by doing something. And that is accepting the verbal You've offered it verbally, not framed it as a contract.
No, I've told them something will happen.
Yeah, when X, then Y.
And then they accept it by doing the beginning part.
When you're ready to go into a profound trance and work on this problem to fix it forever, you can take a seat in this chair and close your eyes.
That's right.
It can be 2 things, 3 things, whatever. You can make it part of your compliance set as well. So
good point.
Yeah, these are great things. So you've got that tacit contract, you do the change work, then you offer them Mike's double bind.
Double bind, yeah. Marlene Hunter's.
It's much more likely that you're also getting their brain to really be in that state where they're believing the change has happened and therefore it does.
Excellent. Now I want to talk about this, came up in class, the 2 times that hypnosis was set back. And it was set back for a long time, and it was 2 specific events set it back. One of them was George du Maurier wrote the book Trilby in 1894, and it was a novel about this guy Svengali who had these hypnotic powers, and Trilby was this woman, and he got her under his power. And people read this novel. It was immensely, popular at the time, but people thought it was true. They didn't know it was a work of fiction. And for 2 years, people were anti-hypnosis, being, oh, Svengali, you're trying to control me. You're turning me into Trilby. Ridiculous. It was a work of fiction. Dracula hypnotized people in the movies, but it wasn't real. It was Bela Lugosi. Now,
I love how often Dracula's now coming
Not often enough. Now, here's the thing, too. So that set hypnosis back 2 years, but the biggest setback was that son of a gun, Sigmund Freud, who I know it's just an opinion, but I think he was largely dickish. And just my opinion. Okay, I'm going to give Sigmund Freud the dick chant. He can't stop me. Can't stop me at all. Dick. 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 That was a good one. I got a lot into it.
I'm going to let you finish telling the Sigmund Freud story.
Yeah.
And I want to bring up something that we learned in architecture of hypnosis from one of our students saying, man, when I first listened to your podcast, I want
to hear this.
We'll come back
so the other time we set back Freud, because he was a crap hypnotist, like some others I can think of, because he was a crap hypnotist, he wasn't good at it. Even though he studied with Charcot and, all the greats of the time, And Breuer in his town was a really good hypnotist. So Freud gave up hypnosis, created psychoanalysis, so he didn't even have to calibrate at all, just have somebody lie on a couch and freely associate for 100 to 300 hours and sort of figure their stuff out. And they, this is a great moneymaker. And so hypnosis is put on the back burner, or the shelf really, for 50 freaking years.
Yeah, that's a little bit too long, isn't it?
Bastard.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine if we just decided all of a sudden, hey, who needs this internet thing? Let's just stop using it for 50 years
Yeah.
or whatever.
Let's go back to, Klieg lights or
That did remind
semaphore.
me, I can't remember.
What
who
was
it
this thing in the class you're talking
now.
about?
I can't remember who it was. It was one of the guys who attended, and he
Maybe it was
said
you.
to me something about how when he first listened to watched our podcast, he got the impression that we were really dickheads.
Oh, yeah.
And I
Yeah,
don't
I do
remember.
remember.
And then he said something else. Something happened and he realized.
Really arrogant dicks, he said.
and he
Arrogant
realized,
dicks.
Actually, these
Can you
guys,
imagine?
we don't take ourselves too seriously, right? We poke fun at ourselves just as much as we'll attack
Well, I certainly poke
other
fun at
stupid
you.
things. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we actually do this podcast more for us than anyone else. It's our own creative and humor outlet.
That's right.
And we just hope it's helpful.
It
in
opens the
some
door
ways.
to get interest to hypnosis, NLP, and so on. But these are not our real personalities. Believe it or not, we actually care about people. We honestly do.
Oh, well,
They
they
said,
are our real
remember-
personalities.
Oh, yeah.
And we care.
And yeah. Well, that's true. Remember Matthias in Boston? And he met me, he took me to MIT and
Yes.
drove me all around and bought me Pinot Noir. And he said, I thought you were going to be like really aggressive and arrogant. He said, you're not at all. I said, oh, no, don't
That's right.
take the podcast as being me.
The
It's a
podcast is like
freaking presentation.
It's an element of our
This is very
personality.
meta now.
Yeah, we have ego states that
Yeah.
like to be in this frame of mind.
Yeah.
And that's all you see on the podcast.
Yeah.
But then we get right back into those ego states in the classroom and have that same amount of fun.
Well, sometimes.
So people say, oh my goodness, you guys are just like you are on the podcast in real life.
Or they say you're not the
we have our-
arrogant jerk you seem
yeah,
to be.
no.
Oh, man, I know.
we-
That's why I'm always amazed when psychiatrists come and train this because they saw the podcast. I thought,
Yeah,
good grief.
we're like, oh my goodness. Didn't
Them
know what
any-
they were
yeah.
doing.
Now, wait a minute. Let's here's another important point, and we like to give these little pointers. Slow down when you're doing hypnosis. And this is missed all the time. No motor mouth. I told you, I saw a guy walking up, and as you said, they're going deeper, and you're going deeper. And then when you keep going deeper, you're like absolute data stream so fast. Milton Erickson spoke at the rate when he was doing hypnosis of 75 words per minute,
Now,
which
that's
is
for
half
therapy,
the average
right?
person.
Just
Yeah, I
to
said
be
while he was
clear.
doing hypnosis. I
Yeah,
said,
when you're on stage and you're doing hypnosis,
Different thing.
You're speaking much more quickly when you're attempting to, well, not attempting, when you
You're
are.
really
You're
speaking
using
slowly
confusion.
now.
But
we
yeah,
are really
during therapy,
attempting to.
Erickson, you said he would speak at
75.
Right.
It sounded like one of my relatives now. It's driving me nuts.
it's
He talks really slowly,
slow.
very kinesthetically. Drives me nuts. But 75 words a minute. Erickson got amazing results. When you're doing hypnosis, hypnotherapy, you are creating very profound feeling or kinesthetic states. And you have to give people time to get into it. You can't just throw out what.
you just got
What?
give me an idea. Go finish what you're saying.
I've said I'm done.
Let's imagine this just for fun. Let's see what this does.
All right.
Can you? Well, we'll do it off camera later, but I'll describe it and then we'll actually do this with something that pisses us off. Pick something that pisses you off that you feel a bit triggered by, okay?
Okay.
And then
You.
your job is you are forced to describe exactly what pisses you off, but you have to do it at 75 words.
That's about the most infuriating thing I could probably do to myself. It's so
I
awful.
wonder if you would actually be able to get upset at a situation.
I'm getting upset talking
when
about
you're,
talking at
when
that
you're
speed.
forced to talk
Oh,
about it
man.
slowly. It would almost
Oh.
make it seem ridiculous.
It makes it infuriating is what
so
it
I'm
does.
going to experiment with this with you over lunch, and then I want all of you play around with the idea. Take something that bugs
Don't do it,
the
folks.
heck out of you that you would normally, you're all riled up and you're talking like this, and talk.
Would you stop
slow.
doing it? It's like become a 20-minute segment now. Speaking of which, I was in the car
me about
yesterday.
how
I would no, but I gotta say, I was coming back from Niagara on the Lake. We went and saw the Agatha Christie Witness for the Prosecution. Great play. And we're coming back in the car, and there was music playing, and he's saying, I'm ready to go home. And I said, he's ready. He's ready right now.
He's ready.
And when I get home, he's going to get there eventually. Just the
Chris
comments.
Thompson.
And I said, I saw the joy in how you did that. I enjoyed doing it. And then after like 2 minutes, I was actually beginning to annoy myself.
Because I was
The
doing this-
commentary.
I did this for 2 hours.
You said, I thought it was funny. I said, yeah, it was for the first 2 hours. You're not doing that this year when you, me, September
I know.
Man, and MCA are
I
all
was
hanging
doing
out.
that to Tom Waits and
Let's talk
everything
about
else.
Ralph Slater for a
Okay.
second.
Yes.
Now, I got my Ralph Slater book, A British Hypnotist. This was written in 1952. Slater was a stage hypnotist in the 40s. He worked with medical doctors too. It's got a picture of him doing full body catalepsy, standing on some guy.
The dickish stuff.
The dickish stuff.
Yeah.
But Slater wasn't dickish. He was very good. Now, we teach the Milton H. Erickson handshake interrupt rapid induction in our class, where we go to do a handshake, tilt their hand towards their face, draw the attention, send the hand moving to the face, they drop into trance. It's very quick and easy. But I always taught it as Milton. Everybody thought it was Milton.
Yeah.
But in one of the books I read lately, and I'd be hard-pressed to say which one because I've read so many, it said the handshake interrupt actually came from stage hypnotist Ralph Slater in the 1940s, who Erickson may well have been exposed to because he hated stage hypnosis, by the way. Erickson did not like it at all. Do you know that?
You told me that.
Yeah,
before.
it really irritated him. But Ralph Slater invented the handshake induction. Now, my question is it the same as Erickson's? Is it the tote interrupting the pattern? I don't know. Derek Balmer did it a different way. And the stuff I've read about Erickson doing the handshake interrupt, the ones I've read, he's doing kinesthetic ambiguity. It's saying he'd lift the hand a bit, he'd let his face go blank and staring and look past the person, and they just sort of and zone out. So it seems there's many things called the handshake interrupt induction. Bottom line is, I got Ralph Slater's used book, printed 75, 80 years ago, whatever, and it's got his signature, the Ralph signature, and it's a good one.
It's nice. The handshake interrupt, every time we post any kind of video discussing this, and we've done different examples in the classroom, there's always somebody who goes, oh, that looks like a bunch of crap, et cetera, et cetera.
That's just a bunch of hooey.
You're missing, if you're seeing that or if you're thinking that, you're missing the entire contextual setup.
Right.
So let's say, as a simple example, you're working with somebody who perceives you as the hypnotist.
Yeah.
And they are the subject. They are paying you money to do some sort of change
Some sort of
work.
change
all right.
work,
Or at least they know you're a hypnotist and they're talking to you about their problem. Okay.
Yeah. There's a context there.
So you've set up a discussion around it. And then at the appropriate time, when you want to get into the induction, you say, may I, I'm mixing up with kinesthetic ambiguity.
Uh-oh.
May I borrow that hand? Could be one too, because they'll wonder what's going on. You could do it that way too.
Could do.
But you could just say, it's great to see you here. You're putting out the hand. It's great to reconnect with you. And when they go to shake your hand and you simply interrupt, and as you notice the changing focus of your eyes as that hand, whatever, you're just invoking the start of an induction with a pattern interrupt.
Yep.
And the context is already set up. So it's nothing mysterious.
In fact, that it's a
really
tote.
cool.
Test operate, test exit. Unless you have a degree in cybernetics, we're not going to take your criticism seriously because you just don't know what you're talking about. Now, let's talk about pessimism, because you and I have discussed, this is a mixed bag of stuff. After we go into pessimism and optimism, we're going to take a brief break and then come back.
All right.
So let's talk about pessimism. Here's a thought that we had lately. To my mind, no pessimist has ever become a high achiever. Now, of course, that's a gross generalization.
It's a generalization. It's
we mean
probably
few.
Mostly true.
Well, my uncle's a pessimist and he owns, DuPont. We don't care. The point is, no pessimist typically becomes a high achiever, because if you're expecting things to go wrong and you're catastrophizing, you will not even make an attempt to do stuff. You won't take action.
You'll sit on your butt and just expect the world to suck.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, you're stuck in an environment and you won't, Delt's logical levels, you will just deal with your negative environment. You won't behave in a way that changes things. You won't build new capabilities or abilities. You won't form new beliefs, and you won't take on the identity statement that a winner, an achiever, will take on.
You're going to love this.
Go. Okay, what?
Oh, right. I'm really going to take that on, aren't I? I'm really going to be an achiever.
If you're watching, you understood. If you're listening, Mike was pretending to talk to a non-existent person.
I went out with a girl who did that.
Which you knew somebody in your life once who did that.
Yeah. Now, I'll give you an example of the rampant pessimism. The movie Twister came out, and I'm sort of fascinated by tornadoes and severe weather. I just sort of am.
Mike, I just want to complain. This is about the 6th time you brought up this example on the podcast.
Did I? Shut up.
You've brought it up before, but don't worry.
The movie
no
Twister.
one will remember.
We will now. You go looking for it because he's just said that. Yeah, thanks very much.
All right. So
anyway,
lot lady.
and I said, one job I would still like to do is be a tornado chaser, but only if I could be the guy driving. I don't trust anybody else. I'd be going, go, go, go. And they go, yep. Anyway, we're going to see this movie, Twister. And it looked really interesting, the commercials for it. So a bunch of us said, let's go see Twister tonight. And this one person just put a lid on it and said, what for? There probably won't even be any parking.
Like, imagine catastrophizing your life to such a degree that you can't even go watch a freaking movie because there won't be any parking.
Oh, just terrible.
Do you think these people make successful business owners or partners in a relationship?
I don't know. Like, there is a place. Well, you'd know that. But there's a place for black hatting something. Black hat is when you just try to tear it apart, look for the negative. And that's what you do just before implementing an idea.
Edward de Bono,
Dr. De Bono, great stuff. Right? So the green hat is creativity. Mm-hmm. So when you're creating new stuff, there's no constraint on it. You just go crazy with it. Great. And what about this and this and this?
What do you guys want to do tonight?
We can do this. Yeah. Right? And then one person, there's not going to be any parking. They're black hatting. But when someone chronically black hats and catastrophizes, guess what it does? It makes your life really, really unpleasant.
Yeah.
Because you can't be positive and optimistic for everybody else. Eventually, they drag you down.
Yeah, I think wearing the black hat should be done later in the brainstorming phases, right?
No, not in the brainstorming phase. Only the implementation.
That's what I mean.
Well, it's not what you meant. It's
creativity, ideas,
green hat,
etc. And then introduce
implementation.
Yeah,
that's when you
bring in your black hat, and also the red hat where you're using emotion.
Motion. I don't feel good about this. Yeah.
Right. Which are different. They're different things. Red hat and black hat, I think, can get mixed up with people. So read Six Thinking Hats.
Great book. And Six Action Shoes too. We should everybody in our team should know that stuff inside out.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
Now, if things are sure to fail, then why bother doing them at all? I mean, and that really gets people stuck. It gets them in these non-motivated, ridiculous states where they're not breaking free because, well, it probably won't work anyway. Yeah. That is a terrible place to be. Tell me about the Tesla Optimus crime.
You and I were having a conversation about this. I thought about the idea that, well, first of all, in my life, I have figured out that I think I do two things. I have two superpowers that work really well for me. One is a belief. I believe, well, they're both beliefs. Really.
You're unstoppable.
One is a belief that I can learn anything. So not everything, anything in the world kind of thing, but pretty much most things that matter to me, if I don't know them, I can figure them out. The resources are there.
Yep.
And it's just a question of mindset. I can figure stuff out. Okay, the second thing is, and this goes together with the first thing, that I won't give up, I won't quit. So if I know I can learn it and it's taking me a little longer, or I know I can figure out how to do something, it's taking me longer, I'm making progress still, and I won't quit, and I'll eventually get there. So those are two important things. And that has made me more of an optimist in life, which has also made me, when I look at investing in the stock market, I like investing in tech stocks, Amazon, Google,
Tesla.
Tesla.
They're doing really well right now again.
All these amazing companies that I like, and I see the optimistic future. I see what's likely to happen, and I make a decision to invest. What I see on the opposite end, though, is I see people looking at something like, so Tesla's building these humanoid robots. They started a few years ago, and it's really neat. The idea being they're not historically a robotics company,
right?
But they are brilliant with mechanical engineering and actuators
and Mars and all that Cydonia stuff.
They're really good with artificial intelligence. So the whole idea that the same computer that can drive a Tesla can be used to create a neural net that will train a robot on how to see and recognize objects and manipulate things in the real world. Whereas if something goes wrong, no one dies, because if autopilot, like, you have to be there controlling your car,
unless the robot kills everyone.
Weird, right?
Yeah.
But if a robot cracks an egg the wrong way or folds a shirt badly or something, it's not the end of the world. Anyway, they were demonstrating on X, Twitter, which used to be the Optimus Prime, that's the name of it, robot is going for regular walks around the office.
To stay in shape, yeah.
Now, people have seen it live in person at actual events, walking. So no surprise it can walk. But this is the level of pessimism that I see. People go, that's fake. That is a fake video. Because if you look at the lighting, if you look when it's walking past that window and you see that shadow, it doesn't line up with this other shadow. So they're now making all these complex assumptions about the way light moves in this environment that they can't actually see, because they're only seeing what the camera's showing them. And they go, oh, that was Photoshop. That's fake. It's like, why would they fake a robot walking This isn't like, oh my goodness,
Why?
it can walk.
We're sort of beyond pessimism and into rampant dickishness here. I think it is very dickish.
It's like dickishness, but it's not. It is a pessimism.
It's a different
but
kind of dickishness.
Seeming to be dickish. But here's the thing. Here's the bottom line. It'll screw up your life. Because in this case, this is, in my opinion, you're taking an attitude that is going to cost you a lot of money because you now will fail. You'll miss out on an investment opportunity that I think is pretty kick-ass. Personally, I could
That's
be
good.
wrong, but I won't miss out on it because I am more optimistic, and I encourage you all to be more optimistic.
Well, that's good because we said pessimism is a waste of your time and your life as well.
Yep.
It makes life difficult for other people. Like there is a place for negative thinking, but it shouldn't be your routine spot where you camp. And it can turn into chronic negativity, which really sucks to be around. Nobody likes, it's just horrible.
But if something's too hard,
Homer
just
Simpson.
not worth doing.
Yeah, teaching part. If something's too hard, it's just not worth it. It's not brilliant. We've got to go to a break. We'll come back with optimism after this.
Special report from our roving reporter, Brado, in Hypno North, Meaford, Ontario.
Yeah, how are you tonight? Thanks once again. That's your old pal Bradley, alias Brado, up here in the sickening north, where the big event's watching the new bacon slicer at the Red Rooster Diner, which just about spells out how pathetic my life is because it's only been there for a week and I've been to see it twice already. Anyway, here's the update on the dismal state of hypnosis here and why it's getting better all the time. You probably remember me talking about those two world-class dicks, Eddard and Duder, and their venture into the world of contraception. If you don't remember, they designed the most dickish device in all of human history, which is a protophiliac with a zipper on it to provide the easiest installation and removal of any condominium on the market. But as predicted by yours truly, after the initial sales exploded due to fascination with all things penile and asinine up here in the land of let's get the hell out of here, interest has fallen off sharply, and I do mean sharply with a capital sharp. Turns out these high-end, ultra-convenient personal protection devices have razor-sharp edges on the zippers, and as predicted, there's a lot of good Grey County men up here in pain and turmoil, and I'm positioned to offer pain relief hypnosis for zipper-equipped protophiliac-related injuries. Best of all, I'm booked solid, which means a lot of guys have bought and actually worn these ridiculous Privy member Iron Maidens, which once again shows how moronic the general population is. I've made nearly $180 already, and there's no end in sight, so zip them up, boys. This has been your old pal Brado coming at you on the iPhone 4 from the land of dicks and zippers.
All right, now I sure hope that Brado is making use of Hypnothoughts.com. They're all-in-one awesome software that we run. It's our sister company that helps you book client appointments, build websites, run follow-up
Email
campaigns,
blitzes.
do all the amazing things that you need to do when you're marketing. And Hypnothoughts is for professional people helpers, so that be hypnotherapists, hypnotists, anything at all involved in helping, coaching people, information products, live one-on-one sessions. We can help you out. Check out Hypnothoughts.com. Pythos. Hypnothoughts.com.
Brilliant.
It's a fake word, and we admit it. So
it's okay. Optimism is a learned trait. So we've gone after pessimism here. Optimism can be learned. It can be
I'm
conditioned
starting
in.
to feel pretty optimistic about this.
I'm glad to hear that.
All right.
Now, we tend to find what we're looking for. It's the whole idea, what we focus on, we tend to get, not because we're magically attracting it, but because our brain begins to sort for that and look for things tied to it. If we're looking for opportunity, if we're thinking that our lives are going to go well, guess what? We will look for evidence to confirm that as true. It's a confirmation bias.
This is associated or is the reticular activating system at work here?
Well, yes.
I thought so too, because so if your reticule is always focused on the crap, what sucks about the situation, that past, that stuck state, whatever, then you're gonna form essentially unconscious habits, unconscious
I'm looking for this stuff
where your brain is trained, neural pathways, etc. You're training your brain to keep doing that garbage.
And that.
Whereas if you change your focus and you purposefully have to consciously intervene at first,
intentionally,
and start saying, "Oh, it sucks," and maybe okay, it still isn't great, but it doesn't suck. We've moved this far. Let's look at the progression we've made.
See?
Now let's carry that out. Let's project what happens in the next 12 months when we keep doing this change. Oh, all of a sudden life's pretty good. Now it gives us a reason to be optimistic.
That's good. That's very good. Very strong. And remember, I love this line. You can learn to be optimistic, but the line from Richard Bandler is, remember, disappointment requires planning. You have to be so optimistic that you can be crazy.
Buddy.
You don't want to say, you're going to make your next $1 million next week, like your first $1 million in 3 days or something. That's ridiculous. And that's going to lead to catastrophic disappointment because you set your sights too high. Look for that middle ground.
Yeah.
Things are normally pretty good if you let them
give
be.
You another point about this.
I bet you are.
Disappointment and stuff. Okay. So if you only look at a snapshot in time, in the accounting world, we'd call that a balance sheet, right? It represents assets, liabilities, equity right here and now. It doesn't tell us anything about how things have changed over time.
Okay.
So similarly to a balance sheet, you go to a gym, you see a really obese person working out.
Insensitive.
And how many people would look and go, clearly that person needs to be focused on the kitchen, not the gym, or some other
I've heard people say that. Yeah.
dickish comment. You have no idea if that person's already down 100 pounds.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
You have no idea because you haven't looked at the progression of time. So engage in, when you see a situation like that, congratulate the darn person and say, hey, way to go for being here. And encourage people that are on their pathway and find out.
I like that, their
I'm not saying
pathway.
go up to strangers and ask them how much weight they've lost or anything like that. But my point is, wouldn't it be more useful to assume that heavy person in the gym has already measurably changed their life?
Yes.
Has already gotten
and
a
is
result,
on that pathway. Yeah.
And in 12 more months, what's gonna happen when they look at themselves in the mirror? They're gonna feel freaking fantastic.
That's brilliant.
So
in fact, if you find that's a very good example. If you find that you are being pathologically negative, you can use a thing from cognitive behavioral therapy. And all you need to do is catch yourself, start to notice, and actually say, stop.
Yes.
And push that picture of the negative stuff away. I know there isn't a real picture. Now you have to rescript immediately, just with something like, I'm done with being negative.
I'm done with that crap.
I'm looking for good stuff now. Just something like that, and let go of it.
Yes.
If you do this continuously, those pathways will prune and you'll start moving in a more positive direction, which is much more helpful for everybody. I can't say enough how much negativity in people, black hatting, catastrophizing, how much it drives me nuts.
I'm looking at the notes here, and you have a point here that says, pretend to be optimistic on the weekends.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
That's right. Well, first of all, when you see things going wrong, look for overwhelming evidence that you're incorrect.
Oh, great.
Question it.
Yeah.
Question your beliefs by looking for evidence to the contrary. Oh, my life sucks. My life's going nowhere. Oh, let's start unpacking that and determine what is going well. What's fantastic. Oh, it's too hard to be optimistic. Just do it on weekends then. That's when you're off work anyway, right? Be an optimist on the weekends. What a great weekend is going to be. Who are you going to hang out with? What meals you're going to have? How much fun it's going to be going to that sporting event, whatever. And then it'll gradually start to spread through the week. You can be pessimistic all week if you want and annoy the people at work. But if you're an optimist on the weekend, you'll feel a lot better.
I love it. All right. I think we're pretty much down to the end of this podcast.
I think we are, Chris. So we have the empowering question, and I would like you to ask this.
All right. Here we go. Since negativity and pessimism are highly unlikely to create anything new, useful, or interesting in your life, how will you organize your life to ensure that you make the best use of the cards that you've been dealt, and what might be of tremendous benefit to you when you do that?
Wow. All right, I've got a Metafive, one better than a metaphor for you. This is Jim in Jack Tar Village. I've never told you this story. The first time I got booked in the Dominican Republic to do a couple of hypnosis shows, and they give you a week vacation, all inclusive. I had to do 2 shows, I think.
Yeah.
All for the tourists. So my parents found out by fluke that a friend of theirs, Jim and his wife, Marion, whose family were kind of crazy. Anyway, he looked sort of like a pterodactyl, according to Bob Gray. But Jim and his wife, they were also going to Jack Tar Village, the same resort. And I ran into them at the airport. My mom said, yo, watch out. You'll see them there. They're going there too. So I see them at the airport. And Jim is like, I forgot he's pathologically negative and pessimistic. He says, well, we'll give it a try. Never been there. We'll see what it's like. I'm so excited. I'm going to the freaking Dominican Republic, all inclusive, just 2 shows. Then we get on the plane and he's on the seat across from us, from Bob Gray and I. And he's looking out the window. He says, South Carolina. Walked along that beach many times. I'd rather be going there than Dominican Republic. Actually, I'd rather be going just about anywhere else. Still, we'll see how it works out. Bob just looked at me and went, Like he just wanted to strangle him. Just putting an absolute down on the start of a vacation, how probably won't be that good. You get what you're looking for.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. This has been the Brain Software Podcast, episode 258. And we appreciate our sponsored commercial from Brado. We'll see you in the next episode. Thanks again, and good night.
Loochie.